going on, world? Welcome to the Life Malcolm Show. Definitely appreciate you being back here one more time with us on In Touch News. You know, it's a call in show as always. You can call us at 813 444 9588. Look forward to hearing from you. Definitely excited about this week. We're going to talk a little bit about the quote we left off with last week. We also going to kick another Thing Teach Us session. And then, as has become our custom, we're going to close it out with a word from the Word. But before we get to that, let's chat a little bit about this water thing that's going on, because it's going to kind of help us set the stage for some of the other things we want to talk about this evening. So there is a boil water mandate in Tampa. Apparently, somebody in the city water plant or wherever they do their water thing did something to a water line, caused some kind of contamination, and now, right, there's this boil water mandate for the city. And so I'm kind of grinning because it tickled me to know that there are people who still use tap water to cook and drink. And the way I know that this kind of thing is happening is because I drink water about a gallon a day, every day. At least I try. And so it's customary for me to go to the grocery store, get 10 gallons of water for myself just to drink and cook. And so I go to the store to do my normal, usual grocery shopping. Although a day late, I usually grocery shop on Sundays, so that's me, my bad, right? But I go to the grocery store, to the Publix, and there's no water on the shelves. And I was like, okay. Well, it happens. So then I go to the Winn-Dixie. No water, right? At least no gallons. They had this other stuff like little bottles and flavored water, and I drink purified water, but they had, other stuff like spring water and whatever. But everybody who decided to get bottled water yesterday got the good stuff, the purified water. And so, to push a long story forward, I go to a couple other stores, still, right, no water. And I'm like, they ought to make a restriction. Like, they had the restriction how when the colonial virus came out, you could only get 2 bottles of water, 2 packs of toilet tissue, or 2 packs of paper towels or stuff like that. I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm in here trying to get my normal, customary quantity of water, that all the people who all of a sudden rushing out to get water, emptying the shelves when there's no impending storm or grave calamity on the horizon, just because there's this water problem in Tampa, sends a strong signal that everybody ain't drinking bottled water and cooking with bottled water on a regular. And maybe the only ones who should get more than 1 bottle of water at a time during times like these are those of us who customarily buy 10 gallons of water. Like, you ought to have to go up with your receipt and say, look, 2 gallons ain't going to do it for me. I normally get 10 a week, so I get 10. And that way, everybody who normally drinks or buys 10 gallons of water ain't left out, and the people who normally don't, well, they kind of moving how they always move. That was my first thought. Kind of selfish, perhaps, because I wanted some water without having to go through the city hunting for it. But then the second thought, right, the selfish thought was very fleeting. The second thought, however, was like, who still drinks tap water? I mean, who still cooks with tap water? And it's funny, right? I know some people who don't drink tap water but will cook with it. I don't understand that. I know some other people who don't drink tap water, who don't cook with tap water, but they'll make ice with the tap water and put it in drinks and stuff. So yesterday was just kind of eye-opening for me that there are way more people than I thought that still do this stuff. like drink tap water and other things that we know are unhealthy for us, or other things that, in my mind, we all know are unhealthy for us. And so, of course, we, as African people in the United States, have a serious kind of issue when it comes to health because of our colonial condition. And you hear me each week talk about the nation and colonialism and the position that our subjugation, the ill-fated position, our subjugation as colonized people here in this country keeps us in, right? So nothing about our reality is separate from our colonial condition. It's our colonial condition is connected to every aspect of our lives, even this water thing. There's some people, some neighborhoods, some communities who didn't run out of bottled water in the stores. As a matter of fact, there's some people, some communities who don't need to buy bottled water because they are able to afford relatively expensive water filtration systems throughout their whole house. I mean, this boiled water thing says don't even brush your teeth with the water, and don't, be careful showering with the water. You got to boil your water to wash dishes, etc. And then I read an article where our friends in the media say stuff like, put bleach in your water. If you can't boil, you don't have to boil your water to clean it. You can put bleach in it. They say, and I'm not suggesting that anybody does this by no means. I just want to show you how people who control our water, control our perception of the world by and large through the mainstream media, can set us up, real bad. They say, so put bleach in the water, and it has to be 1/8 of a teaspoon per gallon, and you have to shake it up and then watch it for 30 minutes. And if it still looks cloudy, they suggest that you add 1/4 of a teaspoon to that, and then shake it up and wait again, and hopefully you can drink it. And as soon as I saw that suggestion, I'm like, somebody's gonna mess that up. Somebody is gonna hurt themselves following the colonizers' advice. Even the idea that you can boil bacteria out of water. I'm not. Maybe there's some bacteria that dies from heat and being boiled. I mean, I'm sure there are. However, there are a lot of other things in tap water that are not good for our bodies, that are not good for human consumption, probably not even good for external use. Like, just if you have a moment, Google total dissolved solvents, right? TDS. Stuff like lead, fluoride, a bunch of other mess that's in our water. And depending on your zip code, your water has more or less TDS than others. And just based on that fact alone, we should not use tap water for much else than washing cars. Maybe, right? Certainly shouldn't use it and cleaning stuff that we don't plan to eat from. Certainly shouldn't use it to cook. Certainly shouldn't use it to drink. And those of us who have little choice but to use this water, either because we can't afford better or because we don't know better, find ourselves being the same people who often have the most health problems. Also, the same people who have this colonial relationship with the ruling class in the United States. All these things go hand in hand. And it's not just my imagination. I read this article in coming out of Manatee County, where they say now that race has been at the center of many important conversations in 2020, from the coronavirus pandemic to civil unrest across the country. Now, 2 Tampa Bay area counties have joined nearly 150 other locations around the country in continuing those conversations The American Public Health Association has listed racism as a public health issue in 145 cities and counties across 27 states, up from just 7 in 2019. So imagine that. I call it colonialism, which it is, which anybody who understands the word can understand the relationship African people in this country have with white people in the white ruling class, know that what we experience is colonialism and nothing short of it. This article, the writer here, is not clear enough or bold enough to call the social condition colonialism, and rather attaches the experience of poor health and civil what do they call it, civil unrest, to something like racism. Well, last week we left off with this quote. I asked y'all to figure out who the author of the quote was. The quote was, "No investigation, no right to speak." Right? No investigation, no right to speak. You know who said it? Of course you do. But I'll tell you anyway, for those who was not with us last week, and those who were with us but didn't have time to look it up or didn't make time to do it. Mao Zedong, again, courageous revolutionary thinker who led the Chinese Communist Party to revolutionary victory in China and set the groundwork and the theoretical and practical framework for revolutionary people and parties to follow. Said no investigation, no right to speak. And there are a lot of us who have this idea in our minds that everybody is entitled to an opinion. It could be true. I'm not sure how we conclude that everyone is entitled to an opinion. But even if that is true, and I wouldn't belabor the point, I'll concede that everybody's entitled to an opinion. However, there's no reason, in my view, that just because people are entitled to an opinion, they are entitled to express it. No investigation, no right to speak. Let me read a little bit about Mao's quote. This is coming directly from Mao about that quote. And we do some reading here on this program, if that's all right with you. I know I'm told that we don't read a lot and have to make short posts, and someone even suggested that I probably shouldn't read so much on the Life Malcolm show. But we're readers here. We have to read because we have to learn stuff. And one of the best things we have going for us is our independent access to knowledge, and oftentimes that knowledge is found in words. So we're gonna read a little bit. I'm looking at Mao in quotations from Mao Zedong, number 23, investigation and study. Mao says, everyone engaged in practical work must investigate conditions at the lower levels. Such investigation is especially necessary for those who know theory but do not know the actual conditions, for otherwise they will not be able to link theory with practice. Although my assertion, no investigation, no right to speak, has been ridiculed as narrow empiricism, to this day I do not regret having made it. Far from regretting it, I still insist that without investigation there cannot possibly be any right to speak. So you can think, you can have your opinion, but there can possibly be no right to speak. There are many people who, the moment they alight from the official carriage, make a hullabaloo, spout opinions, criticize this and condemn that, but in fact 10 out of 10 of them will meet with failure. For such views or criticisms which are not based on thorough investigation are nothing but ignorant twaddle. Countless times our party suffered at the hands of these imperial envoys who rushed here, there, and everywhere. Stalin rightly says theory becomes purposeless if it is not connected with revolutionary practice. And he rightly adds that practice gropes in the dark if its path is not illuminated by revolutionary theory. Nobody should be labeled a narrow empiricist except the practical man who gropes in the dark and lacks perspective and foresight. So, we're going to break that down a little bit when we come back from break. No investigation, no right to speak. Why don't you call me at 813-444-9588. Tell me what it means to you. We'll kick it when we get back. Life Malcolm Show.
A beautiful day.
This is Daryl Johnson
and Tampa Bay Tammy.
Wishing all our listeners all over the world
happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to
you. From In Touch News
and Radio.
This is Mario Andretti. You know me as a race car driver, but I'm also a Meals on Wheels volunteer. I've raced against the sport's biggest personalities, but I've never met more vibrant, amazing people than the seniors served by Meals on Wheels. You can make a difference by dropping off a hot meal and saying a quick hello. So, America, let's do lunch. Volunteer your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
People been saying to your friend, get a different face, and posting on their feed, they're super ugly. The things they say to them online are cruel and they're not true. So tell your friend, I'll stand up for you. Don't worry, I know what to do.
Know someone being bullied online? You can be a witness and make a difference by letting the world know it isn't cool and by letting your friend know you care. Learn more at eyewitnessbullying.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
In Touch Radio, the most loved station across the nation. In Touch Radio. Tell a friend. In Touch Radio.
All right. Welcome back to the Life Malcolm Show, right here at In Touch News. You can watch us at www.intouchnews.com, as well as listen to us at www.intouchnews. Check us out on Facebook, In Touch News. And, of course, call in. Talk to us at 813-444-9588. All right, so we were talking about Chairman Mao and his quote, no investigation, no right to speak. And he connected that quote to the idea of theory and practice, particularly revolutionary theory and revolutionary practice. We like to say in the political world that theory informs practice and practice informs theory. One more quote I'll drop on you, and it's kind of common amongst those of us who do this political revolutionary work. And that idea is simply this. The two best teachers are observation and participation. Observation, of course, being the theoretical component, not the hands-on component, but putting together the ideas, putting together some ideas based on what it is we perceive through our senses. Remember, this show right here is a materialist perspective of the world, and particularly an African working class perspective on the material world. But we deal with the material world, what our eyes see, what our ears hear, what our noses smell, right? So we believe in the observation part, but observing is not enough. We can't just be on the sideline watching, taking videos of something and or even reading here and watching this program. It's good. We have to do that part, but that's only half of the work. The other half of the work that informs our observation is the practice part. Observation and participation. When you get in the game, when you start to put what you've observed, what you've learned through your observations into play, then you begin to learn if your calculations based on your observations are correct. And not only that, your observations kind of inform how it is you should participate. You dig what I'm saying? So back to the water thing that we started with. This idea that other people control our water. I mean, even me. It was a hell of an epiphanous moment that I wanted to get my normal quantity of water for my everyday consumption, nothing special, nothing big, but I was out of control. I didn't have any control. I couldn't, the water in my house was no good, and there was no water at any store nearby me for miles, right, that I could drink. It's complete lack of control, which is exactly what colonialism is. It is somebody else controlling every aspect of another nation's life, right? Control our water, control our food, control our economics, politics, who gets to walk around in our communities and use deadly force, control our housing, control every aspect of our lives. And for these people to connect health problems to racism, like the water thing, that's a health issue, and to connect that to some kind of theoretical idea, like racism, to connect the fact that we get more diseases like the colonial virus, cancer, whatever the disease, you name it, we at the top of the list. To suggest that our condition as the sickest, the poorest, the unhealthiest people has something to do with racism is wrong. Observation teaches us that it's not some thought in white people's minds or in colonizers' minds that control us, but rather it's the barrel of the gun, period, right? I mean, imagine, there's this thing that African people talk about all the time, the Willie Lynch letter. You might have heard of it. Supposedly, some white guy, this is a theory, some white guy named Willie Lynch rode into some town and gave a speech based on some letter, and based on the speech, there's this letter, some kind of way, if you've got to put the light-skinned Africans against the dark-skinned Africans and the young ones against the old ones and all this kind of stuff. And supposedly this letter, this Willie Lynch letter, the ideas in this letter have kept African people controlled, constricted, confined, confused, and colonized, just the letter. However, we know that can't be true, because if all it took was some genius white guy, and I don't even think history says he was some kind of genius, but to think that some genius white guy can just write a letter that leaves African people subjugated for hundreds of years would be to ignore the fact that white people, the ruling class, the people in power, know that there ain't no letter they can write that would keep us under the thumb, keep us colonized, confused, in a constant state of chaos in our communities. If they believed that they could do it with a letter, they just write letters. They would not need the police department. They would not need the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, which just serve as the international police. They would not need Apache helicopters, grenades, and drones, and all this other stuff they use to make sure that, to do everything they can to make sure that the African working class and other colonized people in this country and around the world do not raise up. They know it takes more than just a letter. It's more than just theory. It's something actual and practical on the ground. Only those, though, as Mao said, only those people who live in the shadow of uninformed theory that is uninformed by practice, could come to such a conclusion that this theoretical idea, such as a Willie Lynch letter, or this theoretical idea, such as racism, could be the culprit that keeps us in the constant state of unhealthiness and whatever else they said in that thing. I wanted to talk about the crabs in the bucket too, right? Same idea, crabs in the bucket, right? Another kind of concept, just a theory, an idea that completely liquidates the material reality of the world we live in. The crabs in the bucket idea is, if you haven't heard, some people say crabs in the barrel, either or. So the crabs in the bucket idea, at least when I hear it, often comes up concerning African people who seem to attack each other when one of us trying to come up. In other words, trying to crawl out of the barrel, to climb out of the bucket. However, very rarely do I hear anybody ask the question, how the hell did the crabs get in the bucket in the first place, right? Because, we just run with the theory. And people, no investigation, no right to speak, will say it. African people act just like crabs in the bucket. Well, and that might be true. But the bucket is the problem, not the crabs, right? How are crabs in a bucket supposed to act? You're supposed to do every damn thing you can to get out the bucket. But a lot of times, because we do not participate in a process, in a revolutionary process, but in any process at all. We don't participate in no process that is going to challenge our theory. So we just latch it on to this idea, crabs in the bucket, this theory, without practice informing the theory. And so we never conclude that the bucket is the problem. And instead of when one of us are trying to do everything we can, scratch, claw, fight to get out this bucket as an individual, and we see another crab doing the same thing, we grabbing hold to whatever we can. When we see somebody on the rise, we trying to grab them, not to pull them back in the bucket, but hell, to get a ride with them. We trying to hitch a ride, and so somebody with bad theory, with no investigation, will see this thing and think it's we all trying to pull each other down. However, if we had good theory informed by good practice, then we would identify the bucket as the problem and do everything we could to turn the bucket over. Because if we turn the bucket over, like using the crab in the bucket analogy, if you turn the bucket over, if we all work together to get to the top of the bucket and flip the bucket over, then we could all walk out of the bucket together. I think we have a call. And happy to hear from you. Caller, come in.
Hey, what's going on, Matt?
What's going on?
From Tampa. This Joe.
What's going on, Joe?
I love not much. I love everything you're saying today. That water thing is so crazy. All of a sudden, city of Tampa's handing out water now. It's so funny how you talking about colonialism. The stimulus package. I joke with my mother. I call that the imperialism package, because it's not going to help anybody that really needs it. You feel what I'm saying?
Right on.
All the top people still skim off the top. The low people, it never reaches the bottom. So I hope they don't never. I mean, if you need it, you need it. But me personally, I hope they'll never cut no stimulus packages. And I hope everybody that's taking advantage just finds a way to find yourself. However, you could make a business or do something, because as you see that water main break, now all of a sudden, come line up and we giving out water now. Yeah. People been needing water, people been needing food, and what the past 8 or 9 months showed me, all this homelessness and affordable living, they could cut a check and end this within 6 months. When you see majority of these subdivisions getting built, a house get built in 6 months, they got somebody working out there 24 hours. Every time I ride by downtown, forget downtown. Every time I ride by Main Street and see what they doing over there, it hits different, and I get I didn't want to say depressed. It just bothers me that they uprooted so many people and now it's retail or mixed income people. You didn't move mixed income people out. Out of there. You moved lower income people out. So I appreciate everything you say, man. I appreciate the show every Tuesday, man. Thanks, man.
I appreciate you calling in, Joe. I missed you last week. I was looking to hear from you, man. You know, you always drop that good input, that good feedback we need. I appreciate you being a very faithful listener and calling in and checking in with the homie, man. Call anytime. But we're gonna check in next week, man. Look forward to hearing from you then. You bring up a very good point, though. You know, maybe not next week because I had something different planned, but we're going to talk about the gentrification we experienced in Tampa and that we are experiencing. I say experienced as if it's no longer going, but it's the ongoing gentrification, right? We'll talk about it, but I'll be able to prove to you when we come and talk about it that what you see down in the Riverwalk area, the Eulalie and the Armature Works and the Pearl Apartments and the rest of it has been in the works since the late 70s, early 80s. This city had a sinister plan to take the homes, African people's homes, take their homes, leave them displaced, and then come in with this whole new world, this whole redefined idea of urban. And so we'll talk about that next week. When we get back, though, this week we're going to talk a little bit about what they ain't teach us. And, of course, a word from the Word right here at the Life Malcolm Show. Stay tuned.
You know what time it is. Grab some lunch and let's talk business with Cheryl Kuso every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m.
This is how it should be done.
Listen in on In Touch Radio. Hello, Kubo. What have you got planned for today?
Come on, this way. Adventure can be found anywhere, but the best place to start is in the forest.
It's the most powerful magic there is.
Head outside to discover incredible animals.
Wow.
And beautiful plants that come together to create an unforgettable adventure. So grab your loved ones and explore a world of possibilities. Visit discovertheforest.org to find the closest forest or park to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
My teacher said that we should have a plan in case of an emergency. Do we have one?
First thing I'm gonna do is grab a flashlight with dead batteries.
I'm going to start randomly throwing clothes in the bag. You two will be hiding in the closet and Dad won't be able to find you.
And that's when we both start crying.
Uncontrollably. Can you pass the cutlets?
Winging it is not an emergency plan. Make sure your kids know what to do during an emergency, who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Search Ready Kids at nyc.gov or call 311. Brought to you by the New York City Office of Emergency Management and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Tampa Bay Tammy.
Your girlfriend.
On In Touch Radio.
In Touch Radio.
And welcome back to the Life Malcolm Show right here at In Touch News. Hope you're checking us out at intouchnews.com. And, of course, you can check us out on Facebook at In Touch News. Just go there, search us up, follow us. Go to my page and join the watch party, however you get to us, man. But tune in. Yeah, I figured that out, y'all. I figured out how to do the watch party joint. I'm telling you, we going to get this thing tight before you know it. The Life Malcolm Show is going to flow. Like Tuesdays used to. Tuesdays used to be my thing. Anybody who knows me knows that I used to rock that spoken word thing, man. We used to kill Tuesdays. I'm so glad that the wonderful people at In Touch News has given me the opportunity to take Tuesdays back. Now we finally got something worth listening to on Tuesday nights in Tampa one more again. So I'm thrilled about that. But yeah, we're gonna tighten it up. I mean, if you came to one of the first poetry shows, you might have saw me finding my way. But as you've learned over the past few weeks, I like quotes. A wise man who knows proverbs reconciles problems. So I like quotes, and one of those things that I've learned over the course of time is adhering to wise words are helpful. So when you saw me at the beginning getting my thing together on the poetry show, you saw me in my little cocoon, and then became this. We did all right, and I'm sure we're gonna see the same thing here. But look, back to the lecture at hand. We're gonna talk about that gentrification thing. Remember, I'm telling you, the Heights. There was a plan to take over the Heights. And what we saw with the destruction of Central Park, the destruction of Tampa Park, the destruction of North Boulevard homes, the way they ran Africans out of Riverfront Park. We used to celebrate at Riverfront Park every Sunday. Used to have a ball. The way they just ran Africans off of Main Street, all of it has been in the works for nearly 5 decades. Nearly 5 decades, the city had a plan, and we'll talk about that. Matter of fact, I tell you what, give you some more homework. When you have the opportunity, go look up Water Street, Tampa, so you can see what kind of future they're planning now. They got this thing called Water Street, Tampa. My man Joe called in and talked about mixed income homes and all that. I don't even think Water Street gonna have that. As a matter of fact, it's my understanding that the area they call Water Street, Tampa, has all sold. Nobody who can't buy nothing. All you can do is lease and rent and that kind of stuff. And we were not part of the plan. And the reason why we don't know about a lot of stuff is because they ain't teach us. I don't know if that was a good segue or not, but it's kind of corny. But they ain't teach us. And so tonight, last week, we talked about a heroic African man. You got to go back and check out last week's program if you want to know who. I'm not going to tell you. But this week, we're going to raise up an African sister whose name may or may not be familiar to you. I'm going to go with not familiar to you because there's not been a lot of talk about this heroic sister. So I'm going to tell you why. We're going to read a little bit about our dear sister, Miss Desi Woods. Desi Woods. So in 1975, a good year, that's the year I was born, Desi Woods set a defiant example. And I'm reading this from the African People's Socialist Party publication written a while ago, written probably in 2016 when dear Sister Desi Woods died. So it says, on June 17th, 1975, Desi Woods and her friend Cheryl Todd were hitchhiking home to Atlanta, Georgia from an unsuccessful attempt to visit Todd's brother in Georgia's infamous Reedsville prison. We always got us in prison, right? We're always going to see a loved one in prison. Anyway, the two African women were picked up by an insurance salesman named Ronnie Horn. As an ordinary Southern white man, Horn understood his right to assault the two African women if he chose to do so, and he did choose to do so. Horn began to intimidate the women, and when they resisted, he pretended to be a cop and threatened to arrest them. After stopping in a deserted area, Cheryl Todd escaped, getting out that bucket. Cheryl Todd escaped from Horn's car and ran. Horn drew his pistol in an attempt to stop her, but Desi Woods, who had been sitting in the back seat, grabbed the gun and struggled. I'm going to stop right there. Say something about struggle. My man, I'm with Joe. They out here giving out, I like that too, the imperialism pack. What he said, the imperialist package. Yeah, that's what it is. And this water and stuff. Joe is right. The city, your mayor, what's her name? Jane Castor. Yeah, I just don't know what exactly I can say. So we'll just say it like that. Jane Castor, your mayor that y'all chose after she brutalized and terrorized African people for years as chief. This mayor has the ability with the stroke of a pen to change the lives of poor people in and African people in this city, right? With the stroke of a pen, she could have taken a few $1 million from the, I think it's like $1 billion city budget, right? And move the money from the police. Police got everything they need. That's why they so good at catching you. You know, you remember they couldn't catch that monkey. Y'all remember the monkey that kept running? They called it the mystery monkey. The monkey all over the city, right? Monkey sometimes in Pinellas, sometimes in Hillsborough County, and all over, you know, Tampa, right? They couldn't catch the monkey, but they got everything they need to catch your ass. They ain't never miss catching you. Police got everything they need to catch you. And so the mayor could have taken some money from the budget, you know, and put it in economic development. Put it on some of the, I don't know about your street, but my street full of potholes. But now that the gentrification is on, the streets are being paved, you know, so the mayor could do it. It happens all the time. You see them change the lives of certain communities, the existence of certain communities with the stroke of a pen. So, but it will never happen for us if we don't struggle. Yeah, so I'm with Joe. No, don't take just a little bit of water. Take control of the water. You know, don't just get a little bit of imperialism money. Get the whole bag, right? Ain't that what they say? They call it the bag. Get the whole bag. Anyway, let's see how this thing played out with Desi Woods. Desi Woods grabbed the gun and struggled. And Desi was successful in removing this colonial attacker from the land of the living and ensuring that he would never again attack another African woman. She then took Ronnie Horn's money and made sure that she and Cheryl Todd got safe transportation home to Atlanta. And that's a shero in my book. This sister recognized a situation. She could have escaped herself, but she recognized a situation where it was incumbent upon her to do the right revolutionary thing, which was not just defend herself and her friend, but to make sure that this guy could never, ever again attack African women ever. And so this is the call. And you see right now today, there are women, African women, who face the same kind of colonial situation today. Our dear sister Crystal Kaiser. You might not know who she is, but she lived in Kenosha, Milwaukee. Was it Kenosha? Is it Milwaukee? Wisconsin, Kenosha, Wisconsin. Is that the state? Yeah, Kenosha. It was Kenosha. She lived there, whatever it is, Kenosha, Wisconsin. And she was 17 years old when she was accused of killing a man named Randall Volar. 34 years old he was, in Kenosha, Wisconsin, on June 5th of 2018. And this guy, Volar, was trafficking our young sister, using her, pimping her out, right? And one day, Crystal got the guts. That's her right there. You see, that's beautiful African right there. She got the guts to put theory into practice and make sure that this Volar guy, following in the heroic steps of Desi Woods, make sure that this guy could never, ever again hurt any more African women. And you see, people are on two sides of this idea. She should go to prison. She was in jail. She just got out of jail recently on a $400,000 bond for freeing herself from her attacker, just like Sister Desi Woods did. They sentenced Sister Desi Woods to 22 years in prison. But African people all around the country organized and struggled against such a sentence. She ended up only serving 5 years in prison and lived free up until 2016, doing the work of the people as much as she could until she died. And so, but they don't want us to know that that African people, African women like Desi Woods existed and still do exist in the person of even Crystal Kaiser. So if you, dear sister, find yourself in a situation that requires you to struggle for yourself, for your friend, for other African women, know that you stand in the good graces of heroes like our dear sister Desi Woods that they ain't teach us about. And we're going to take one more break. Come back, though. We're going to have a word from the Word. The Life Malcolm Show.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard, so you don't need to start foraging wild berries.
I was skeptical, but these are actually pretty good.
You don't need to sell your soul to the devil. $15 is the best I can do. You just need FeedThePig.org. Don't get left behind. Get tips and tools at FeedThePig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all gotta see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
In Touch Radio, where you can listen to a cruising flow of smooth soul and jazz, today's R&B, a fun touch of hip-hop and gospel.
All my music on one station.
Giving you a buffet of music, news, and entertainment. We're In Touch Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen,
You know what time it is. Grab some lunch and let's talk business with Cheryl Kuso every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m.
This is how it should be done.
Listen in on In Touch Radio.
Welcome back to the Life Malcolm Show, right here at In Touch News. Of course, if you're watching us, you're already tuned in to www.intouchnews.com, or you're watching us on Facebook, and we appreciate that. But please, call in. Don't be afraid to chime in. I know you can't agree with everything I say, and if you do, hell, call in and let me know that too. But, we want to have a discussion, and that phone number is 813-444-9588. And so now, a word from the Word. So we started off talking about no investigation, no right to speak, observation and participation. Then we moved that conversation along to match it up with our real world material condition, where we are colonized, but those forces who want to keep us colonized and work daily to do it will have us distracted from our colonial condition and resolving that situation, have us distracted by theories that go nowhere, like a racism exists, or like a Willie Lynch letter exists, and that's our problem. Or there's this, we have the problem because we behave a certain kind of way when put in a bucket, and the bucket ain't the problem, right? These are all these bad theories. I saw my man William Willer come in on the comment section. I told you I'm getting good at this. He come in on the comment section and say that he always felt a black person wrote the Willie Lynch letter. And I've had that thought once or twice myself. When you don't know what nation you belong to, when you don't know who you are, it's easy, let me say it differently, it's easy for other people to use you against your own nation, against your own people. And so Jesus was hip to that. And in Matthew's chapter 10, Jesus broke down how we should move in colonial conditions. We talked a bit about how Desi Woods responded, how she struggled and when you kill the colonizer, you get rid of colonialism. Like, if it ain't no more colonizers, ain't no more colonialism. So, killing the colonizer frees the colonized and gets rid of colonialism. And, you can only understand that if you can match practice with theory and theory with practice. But Jesus, understanding that kind of thing, says, behold, this is Matthew 10, starting at verse 16. Behold, I send you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. And, people will say, oh, well, you got to be nonviolent. When I talk about Desi Woods and Crystal and uphold their righteous struggles for the freedom of themselves, their friends, and African women and the African nation as a whole, people say, oh, no, something like that, and try to use the Bible sometimes to beat back that kind of righteous defense of and protection of self, right? They try to, beat that back. But Jesus says, look, I'm sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. Wolves are dangerous animals, right? Therefore, Jesus says, be wise as serpents and harmless as doves, right? Doves, everything except Desi Woods and Crystal Kaiser, just about everything on earth is going to fight for itself, defend itself, protect itself, even if it takes violence. Even doves. I tell you what, when you get the opportunity, just find some doves and try to attack them and see what happens. I mean, the dove is going to be harmless as long as you don't bother the dove. But if you go bother the dove's home, the dove's young, the dove gonna make a move on you that's gonna make you regret ever having made a move on the dove. I used to say, like, even ants, with little itty bitty ant brains, have enough sense, without Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, cell phones, without any of that. If you go and stick, this is my theory, and you can put it into practice. This is my theory. Put it into practice, right? If you take your finger and go and stick it in an ant bed, all the ants coming. They're going to have a serious kind of response to your intrusion that will make you regret doing it then and think twice about ever doing it again. And they just got a little ant brain. No technology, no social media, no none of that stuff, but all the ants coming. And it seems, right, that the doves, the ants. Oh, let's keep reading Jesus, though. Oh, let's get that. So Jesus, because he's informative here. He says, beware of men, for they would deliver you up to councils and scourge you in their synagogues. You will be brought before governors and kings for my sake as a testimony to them and to the Gentiles. So I wanted to stop there because you've been warned by the word that when you're doing the work of the Lord, when you're doing Jesus's work, men will turn against you. And let's be clear. Jesus, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week ago. Jesus was a nationalist, right? He said really clearly, I'm only here for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. As a matter of fact, we started at verse 16 in this chapter 10 of Matthew. But you'll see if you go read the whole thing in the verse, Jesus is clear. Don't go messing with the Gentiles. Jesus, just stick with your folk, right? But Jesus was clear. You do this work, I do. You do this nationalism work. You do this revolutionary work. The governors, ain't that what he say? The government, not the devil, not demons. He say the governors and the kings, that's the state. They're going to be against you. And so you need to know what it is you're up against. What wolves what wolf den you're in. When you rolling with Jesus, when you are living like a nationalist, again, remember, Jesus was a Jew who lived under Roman domination, much like African people in this country and around the world live under white power colonialism. And so Jesus is speaking from a similar position as ours. And he's saying, if you do like me, if you hang with me, if you talk like me, all that stuff is going to get you caught up with the state. The governor's going to be against you. The king's going to be against you. And there's going to be some men and councils against you as well. He says, be wise as serpents. Theory. Know what you need to know. Observation. Learn what you need to learn. But participate. Be harmless as doves. It don't say be harmless, be defenseless, be docile. No, 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 no. It says that you have to have a certain kind of temperament when you're a revolutionary. You know, when you're a soldier behind enemy lines, you have to have a certain kind of temperament. And that temperament is wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove. Meaning, though, when it's time to get down, then doggone it, throw down. And so, as always, we want to wrap it up, start from top to bottom. You know, we talked about the water. Get you some good water. If you can, dig a well. Take control of your own water situation. If we can't dig wells, we can organize for ourselves and have our own water supply, right? Let's start doing for self, because I like what Joe said. This imperialism package, it ain't no good for us. It takes away our propensity to struggle. But we've learned that this theory that everybody is entitled to an opinion just ain't right. What is real is practice must inform our theories and our opinions, and we have to move wisely as serpents and harmless as doves. And our quote going out this week is, see you next week. How about that? We're going to, yeah, I had one for you, but we're going to, no. We're going to put it on the back burner because I want to start with the quote next week. I want y'all to just chew on what we put out there today. Wise as serpents. Oh, that's the quote. We'll just take the quote from the word. That's it. Be wise as serpents, harmless as doves. Till next week. We'll see you on the Life Malcolm Show.